this council meeting to order at 6 p.m. First of all, I need a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on October 12th, 2021 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that's carried. Our first item of business this evening is the swearing in of our new youth member of council. Now, this is our 7th youth member of council this evening, so this is very exciting and historic. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Jessica. And Jessica Alexandra, I'm going to ask you to read the oath of office, please.
I, Jessica Ramachandran, do solemnly swear that I will diligently execute the position of youth member of council and will, to the best of my ability, uphold, promote, and support the ideas, activities, and constitution of the council of the city of Portage la Prairie. I will serve as a positive role model, leader, and voice for the student population, and will represent the city of Portage la Prairie as well as I possibly can.
Congratulations and welcome to City Council. This evening we have one delegation here, and our delegation this evening is from the Portage Regional Tourism Committee, and they're here to talk about the regional tourism strategy. And Kelly Verway from PRED and City McDonald from the Chamber of Commerce are here to present. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. My name is Kelly Verway, and I'm the Economic Development Coordinator of Portage Regional Economic Development. And with me today, I have Cindy McDonald, the Executive Director of the Portage la Prairie and District Chamber of Commerce. We are here tonight to present to you the brand new 5-year strategy that the Portage Regional Tourism Committee has put together to guide our region's tourism growth over the next 5 years. The formation of this plan began back in February of 2021 and is based on the committee input that has been gathered throughout the past 8 months during meetings and email correspondence.
Kelly, could you just move a little closer to the microphone, or move the microphone? There we go. Thank you.
Is it picking up?
Good, better?
I'm not sure if that's even working.
Picking up? A SWOT analysis was conducted collectively by the committee members to establish a strong foundation for the goals that we hope to achieve over the next 5 years. 8 months later, we finally have a complete strategic plan that the major regional tourism stakeholders feel confident in standing behind. I will now pass it over to Cindy to talk about our organizational structure.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, everyone, and thank you for having us. The Portage Regional Tourism Committee, PRTC, we don't have enough of those, right? PRTC was formally reestablished in 2020 to assist with managing the Island of the Prairie's regional tourism brand for the region of Portage la Prairie. The PRTC consists of representatives from the major tourism stakeholders in the region, each with distinct specializations in different tourism categories. We are happy to say that we have a full team of stakeholders, and the collaborative approach has certainly been effective. Taking a regional approach to tourism has positively impacted the tourism industry in this region as an economic driver. Our mandate is the Portage Regional Tourism Committee exists to enhance, grow, and promote the entire region as a destination, enticing visitors and residents to explore, stay, and experience the Island of the Prairies. Our mission is to increase the economic benefits that flow from tourism and market the region of Portage la Prairie as one of Manitoba's premier destination.
second objective is to encourage economic impacts for tourism. I'll again refer to poutine days and burger days as nearly $200,000 in revenue was generated for our local restaurants. That's pretty incredible to come from the tourism committee. Goal number 2 is to establish consistent digital media. This is not a goal that will happen overnight and will be something that our committee works on for some time to come. The first objective in that goal is to review the website and update it to best suit the needs of our brand. Fortunately, with the expansion of the Pred team, we have been able to take some of the graphic design in-house, which allows us to update the website in a more timely manner and promote the things that are important at any given time. Secondly, we would like to increase video and digital campaigns. In 2020, the committee took on creating videos, and in 2021, we partnered with Travel Manitoba to have a professionally created video that's set to be released in December. Throughout our campaigns for poutine and burger days, our social media gained over 400 new followers, which is a substantial increase for pages that were nearly inactive until that time. Goal number 3 is to ensure tourism and tourism development is sustained in our region. The entirety of our organizational structure is dedicated to fulfilling this goal, as we are a multitude of organizations who have come together to form this committee. This means that regardless of organizational changes, tourism will remain represented within our region, as our committee has a strong community-built foundation. Thank you.
Were there questions from council on our presenters? Councillor Draycott?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Kelly and Cindy, for coming out this evening to share some information for us about the Portage Regional Tourism Committee. Just a question, how have you been received in the community? Do you feel that everybody is excited to have a tourism committee established again? Have you had any ups or downs, or has it just been a lot of positive outcomes?
I think through our first 2 big events, it's been quite positive, but we still have a long ways to go in terms of getting our names out there and becoming what I would consider a household name in the community. But so far, there's been no negatives that I'm aware of, and people are just happy that it's become front of mind for our community.
Councillor Knox?
Thank you, and congratulations on Poutine Week and Burger Week, and I'm curious what the next week might be. Nothing yet?
As of right now, we don't have anything coming up right away, but you're not the first to ask, so we'll see what the new year brings, I think.
Salad Week.
Councillor Meyer, you had a question?
Yeah, not really a question, just a comment. Thank you, Your Worship. Kelly, Cindy, certainly thank you for presenting tonight. We do know that tourism is a big economic driver within our region. And the efforts that you guys have put forward, seeing from where this started to where it is today, is really incredible on your part. So I really want to congratulate that for you. And I'm really in favor of not Salad Week, but Ice Cream Day. So whatever that happens, I'll be in for that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Well, I have a question. It's not related to any kind of food. That seems to be the theme here tonight. One of the things I was curious about in the report mentioned one of the threats is too close or too far from Winnipeg. So how would that impact tourism being too close or too far, and how do we determine that?
I think that, thank you, Your Worship. I think that being close to Winnipeg has its negatives because they have more resources. There's maybe more attractions there. So if you're coming from a distance, it's easier to go somewhere that you can hit multiple spots at once. And I think that the resources really play into that. They have a large tourism organization. They have a lot of people behind their tourism. And from our perspective, we're working with much more limited resources. So I think we have to work a lot harder to get their attention. And when I don't think we have fewer things, but I think people know about fewer things that we have to offer. So it's really just getting the word out there and becoming a strong voice in the tourism realm.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. Any final questions from members of council? Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for taking time of your evening to present, and thank you for all the work you put in. I know those 2 events so far have generated a lot of excitement within our city and throughout the region, actually. So We're looking forward to hearing lots more from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to move into public hearings. Our first public hearing is for variation PC 5321. This is for Principal Logistics, Inc. at 1520 Saskatchewan Avenue. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to it? Final call. Anyone here to speak to the public hearing for variation PC 5321? This is for Principal Logistics, Inc. Nobody indicated they were going to speak, did we? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for variation PC 53-21 for Principal Logistics, Inc. at 1520 Saskatchewan Avenue now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
Okay, in front of you, Council, from the Planning and Economic Development Committee, the applicant, as we just discussed, is Principal Logistics, Inc. The issue is that they would like the accessory building site coverage requirement, which is 10%, to be increased to 17%. As always, our alternatives, we can approve the variation application or we can deny the application. So just a little bit of the background is the applicant is applying for a variation order to allow the accessory building site coverage to be increased from the current 10% to 17%. They are purposing a fire-rated link between the two buildings, and this will come with fire shutters, of course, at both ends. The building is in a C3 Avenue commercial zone. The application has been circulated to various city departments. The fire department or the fire hall has expressed a concern about water supply for firefighting. Further to that, and you will see that there are two references for your reference in there as well, is that Principal Supply would like to add this fire-rated link between their two storage buildings. The buildings do not require a fire hydrant as per the Manitoba Building Code. There are now 3 larger buildings on this site. There are no hydrants or water supply close by. The most usable fire hydrant is at 14th Street Northeast, and that's in front of the Manitoba Hydro Building, so it is a bit of a distance away. If the city does expand eastward with development, support is needed to consider hydrants for this area. That said, the applicant is aware of the limitations of the fire hydrants in the area and understands that there is no immediate plan to expand this service. If you go back in our minutes from 2020, City Council, we did approve a variation for Principal Logistics on November the 9th for the following, and that was originally to increase the site coverage requirement of 10%. Increased to 16.5%. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and there have been no objections. So it's administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Principal Logistics, Inc. to vary the accessory building site coverage requirement of 10% to be increased to 17%. At the property known as 1520 Saskatchewan Avenue East, which is legally described as Parish Lot 70 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Knox?
I'd just like some clarification because I see in here that there's some concern with the water in case there's a fire, and it doesn't really have a solution to it, just that they're aware of it. So I'm curious to get more information on that, please.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Knox, I think Mr. Carpenter would be the best to speak to that.
So we just want to bring to the attention of everyone that basically moving forward, if we expand with businesses to the east, our closest water supply as far as a hydrant is on 14th Street by the Hydro building. There is private hydrants across Saskatchewan at Windsor Park as well. But due to the size of the building code doesn't require water supply, which moving forward, that is addressed on having to have that. But again, just wanted the city to recognize that if there is further expansion to the east, that we should consider that, I guess, with our water distribution system moving forward, that looking at hydrant support there.
So further to that then, if this is coded as C3 building, I was under the impression that you did need water supply for fire, Mr. Brooks, through your worship.
So I think I can answer that in reference to, but it's not only C3, but it's also the size of the building. So the size of the building and the load occupant, or the fire load of the building is all considerations on determination of a water supply.
Okay, thank you.
If I may add a comment, Councillor Knox, this is something that we've seen in different areas over time where a fire hydrant network hasn't quite advanced to where there's development, and that's why it's important in the report that we mention that the applicant is aware of the limitations, because often these buildings can change hands and then the next owner asks, why don't I have fire hydrants? So the applicant's aware of those limitations. Fire department does have a plan to have water supply to that if there were a fire, but it just takes longer to set up.
Okay, further questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. We'll move into committees. First up is Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Worship. Your committee has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee. Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report at this time, but there is some new business items down and further in the agenda.
Thank you. Community Service Committee. Councillor Draycott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Community Services Committee has nothing at this time in the agenda.
Thank you. And Councillor Wall, Waterworks Committee.
Waterworks Committee has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. And Councillor Espy, Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Worship. Public Safety has nothing in this portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no deferred business this evening. However, we have a number of items of new business. First item of new business is first reading of bylaw 21-8725. This is rescinding debt-free bylaw 38-7998. And this is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Worship. And for Council's consideration tonight is basically rescinding an old bylaw. And I think that, you know, this isn't just to deal with the items that we're seeing in terms of growth in our city, but it is also, it's been an ask of this council for administration to go through and take a look at old bylaws, amend policies. So quite frequently we will see policies brought forward for renewal and update, and this is one of those examples as well. So the city did implement a debt-free bylaw back in 1998, and it was basically to discontinue long-term borrowing of any kind. And while appropriate at that time, you can definitely agree that with recent economic growth in our city, the need to keep pace with growth in replacing and renewing our infrastructure is vital, and debt is an effective tool to do so. So as you know, we've been very cautious in when we take on additional debt in the city, and we've been able to manage that, but it is something that we're doing. So we heard Crescent Lake Causeway was our first recent large general fund infrastructure project, and right behind it is the Saskatchewan Avenue West project, both requiring levels of debt. And so again, I mentioned that City Council is focused on keeping pace with the region's economic growth, and to do that, using measured debt financing is a way to do that. So as a result, the debt-free bylaw is no longer appropriate for our city. So it is a recommendation of Council, and I so move that bylaw 21-8725, being a bylaw of the City of Portage la Prairie to rescind debt-free bylaw 98-7998, be given first reading.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Espy. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the September building reports. And of course, this is City Planning and Economic Development. Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Worship. And as Council knows, it's always my favorite time of the month when we get to talk about some of the building reports. Being brief, you will notice the first report does give you the difference between, or shows you the permits in the City of Portage la Prairie as well as the permits in the city or in the Rcmp of Portage la Prairie. As usual, though, I do draw your attention to the combined report as we do look at it from a regional perspective. And of course, as expected, we did know our number of permits and our dollar values would be down compared to last year with the completion of majority of the industrial projects. I do draw your attention to the dollar value, though, is still significant, and even in a 1-month basis, there was just over $4 million in permits last month. So, again, hats off to the Portage Planning District for the work and the effort put on in some of these good times that we have going on right now. And unless there's any questions, that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Our next item of new business is the PDRI contract extension. This is Transportation Committee. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The issue is to consider the consideration of extending the contract with Portage and District Recycling, Inc. for the collection and processing of recyclable materials. The current 3-year contract between the city and PDRI was negotiated and signed by the previous council and was the one prior to, as was the one prior to that, and it expires November 30th, 2021. Multi-Material Stewardship Manitoba is currently in the process of developing a transition plan to shift to full extended producer responsibility for Manitoba's residential packaging and printed paper recycling program. In the new plan, MMSM would take over the post-collection services, and municipality would have a choice to opt in or opt out of the MMSM taking over collection services. It is expected that municipalities will start transferring over to the new program in 2022. Due to the expected changes, we have asked PDRI to provide a proposal to extend the contract for 1 year. If council chooses not to extend the contract, it is unlikely that an alternate contractor could be found that would be willing to set up a recycling program for only 1 year. PDRI currently performs curbside collection of residential recyclable materials with sorting and processing for shipment in their facility on Phillips Street. They also operate a used oil depot, oil and antifreeze container depot, an electronic waste depot, and household hazardous waste depot. They also collect and process commercial and rural materials. The estimated cost of the 2020-2021 year of the current PDRI contract is $255,000. This includes a fuel surcharge for residential material collection and processing and other services, including hazardous waste collection and electronic waste collection. The city receives a rebate of approximately $201,700 from MMSM. The city currently collects $30 per household per year to fund the program. The 1-year extension proposal provided by PDRI includes a substantial increase. The reasons for this include a number of factors such as reduced commodity prices. The proposed price for the collection, sorting, and processing recyclables is a lump sum of $304,994.08. The cost for additional services, including hazardous wastes, electronic waste, and other items, is $10,899.98. The total for all services is $315,894.06 for a total increase of $60,894.06 over current costs. MMSM provides a yearly grant to assist with the costs of recycling services. The 2021 grant is $201,700, and it is expected that the MMSM rebate will stay the same or increase slightly, which means that the majority of the increase will be borne by the city. If the city were to increase the fee to households on this to cover the amount, the yearly increase needed would be approximately $10 per household, or $2.50 on each quarterly bill. While it would be typically be administration's position to advise council to follow the city procurement policy and issue a competitive tender, it would not be recommended at this time due to the upcoming changes expected from MMSM. In addition, the proposal from Portage and District Recycling, Inc. appears to be reasonable, and the public appears to be very satisfied with the service they receive from PDRI. Administration is also very satisfied with PDRI's performance. It is the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award a 1-year contract extension to Portage and District Recycling, Inc. for the collection, sorting, and processing of recyclables for the lump sum of $304,994.08 net of GST, and for additional services including hazardous wastes, electronic waste, and other items as described in the PDRI proposal for the lump sum of $10,899.98 net of GST, and that the increased cost be funded through an increase of the recycling fee of $10 per household per year.
Moved by Counselor Espy and seconded by Counselor Meyer. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Our next item of new business is emergency services on provincial highways. This is Public Safety Committee. Counselor Knox, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you said, we're going to be discussing emergency services on provincial highways tonight. The issue is to pass a resolution to formally request that AMM lobby the province of Manitoba to enact change regarding funding and compensation for emergency service provincial highways for all Manitoba municipalities with provincial roads within their boundaries. The Manitoba Municipal Act states that every municipality must provide fire protection services within its boundaries. Fire protection services have evolved to include emergency services such as responding to motor vehicle accidents on provincial roads, among others. Numerous Manitoba municipalities are home to major transportation corridors, providing a crucial role in the health of local, provincial, and national economies. The Portage la Prairie Fire Department provides fire protection services to our citizens and visitors, including responding to motor vehicle accidents on municipal and provincial roads, as well as the Trans-Canada Highway. The Portage la Prairie Fire Department has responded to between 59 and 98 motor vehicle collisions per year over the past 4 years, and 81 already in 2021. Over half of the calls occur on provincial roads, with between 5 to 12% of these calls involving out-of-province vehicles, not insured by the Manitoba Public Insurance. Emergency service calls for out-of-province vehicles allow for 100% recovery of actual costs. However, the likelihood of reimbursement is not guaranteed, and the timeliness of compensation is not always satisfactory. The Manitoba Public Insurance flat rates for simple or complex motor vehicle incidents are often insufficient in covering the actual costs of fire and emergency protective services provided on provincial roads, leaving the burden of these expenses on local residents. The cost to municipal taxpayers to provide quality emergency and fire protection services on these provincial roads is significant to contrast the total annual operating costs of these fire departments. Municipalities must also incur costs related to planning for emergencies and mitigating the increased hazards generated by having these highways cross municipal lands. The compensation to municipalities for bearing the responsibility of providing emergency services and ensuring a well-staffed, well-equipped, and well-trained fire department on these provincial roads are not shared equally based on the portion of provincial roads per geographical area covered by a municipality. The administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie requests that the AMM lobby the provincial government to enact a change to provide for basic representative funding for municipalities for services provided on provincial roads per geographical area to help cover the ongoing costs of the additional staffing, equipment, and training required to address highway motor vehicle accidents. And that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie requests that the AMM lobby the provincial government to enact change to provide for compensation for actual costs incurred by municipal fire departments when responding to incidents on provincial roads, regardless of the insurance provider or lack thereof, to ensure all Manitobans are responsible for the cost of highway safety rather than straining local residents with this additional financial burden.
Moved by Counselor Knox and seconded by Counselor Wall. Any questions or comments on the motion? Counselor Buds?
Thank you, Worship. So, previous councils tried to address this issue with regards to having our local fire department attend highway scenes or municipal, rural municipality scenes, etc. Primarily, the highway, but in an effort to curb increasing costs, training, all the things that this recommendation is outlining on that we seem to now need money for, there was kind of a change that was taken in terms of how we address responses. There was a kind of a protocol through the 911 operator, and that worked for some period of time. And we reduced the amount of highway traffic calls that we would go on. because we wanted to make sure that we weren't incurring additional costs and there wasn't wear and tear on our equipment. And so just recently, actually, administration brought forward some amendment to that policy to go back to responding to absolutely everything. So what I'm interested in is before we curbed it, and then we had a resolution passed by council that we're going to go back to the way we are. And at that time, administration painted a picture where, you know, this is not that cost prohibitive, that we are getting most of our fees collected through different insurance companies and through MPI. So I find it very interesting now that we're entertaining a resolution to address the very thing that we previous councils tried to address with changes. So I'm just looking for administration or someone to speak to why now is this an issue when just recently we said it wasn't.
Mr. Vito?
Through your worship to Councillor Buds, this is a cross-provincial effort for communities that live beside provincial roads that are asking for the province to come to the table more with funds to help support the fire departments and first responders. So this is not necessarily strictly driven by the city of Portage la Prairie, but it's a shared mutual interest with other communities. In terms of the discussion and change of a policy and how we respond to the highways, that was brought forward to council, and council did make a decision and gave direction to administration. But administration, obviously, we have a fire department that is capable of responding to those calls, those costs of maintaining that fire department are significant, and our residents carry those costs. So that's why we're bringing this forward. We believe that we have shared interest with fellow communities, and this is being brought forward for council's consideration to support that mandate and bring that forward to AMM.
Councillor Knox?
Yeah, so just clarification, since we did make that change recently, has there been anything that because we did talk about how it was getting easier to deal with other insurance out of province. Has that changed since then?
So there's two things that have changed that may have, that council considered when they changed the policy. MPI has adjusted their rates so it's easier to claim for the accidents that our first responders come to. The second component is there's a more streamlined process, but it's not foolproof in terms of accessing resources from out-of-province insurance companies. We're still going through that process. It has proved easier, but it's definitely not foolproof. Probably the biggest concern we have, or biggest area we have problems with, is large trucks that are insured out of province. The accidents are substantially expensive to deal with, and they're very hard to get collection from the outside provincial insurance companies. That remains an area that has gotten better, but it's still a challenge. And the commitment from administration was, when we changed that policy, is to continue coming back to council, reporting on how many times we're responding, what are the costs incurred, and what revenues are we receiving. So we will continue to do that and keep council in the loop.
So just on that, I will say that I will support this motion wholly, just in the fact that coordinated lobbying towards our government with other municipalities can only be a stronger lobbying effort, for sure.
Further questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Butts?
Yeah, and I will support it too for exactly what Councillor Knox is talking about, is joint lobbying. But I do find it troubling that we painted a scenario where this is cost neutral, or we're getting the cost recovered, and now joining a provincial lobby group to say the costs are increasing, it's difficult to support, and we need your help. I think that is a different message from not that many months ago, and so the only reason I'm supporting it would be the fact that if we can get it through a joint basis, that's beneficial to all.
And further questions, comments on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Our next item is also Public Safety Committee. This is the Rcmp unionization costs. Councillor Knox, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is for information only tonight, and I think it's important information for all of council to have, just because it could be an impact to us in the future. So in 2015, the Rcmp were granted the right to collectively bargain, and by fall 2017, federal legislation allowed Rcmp members the right to unionize and bargain collectively. The first agreement was reached in June of 2021 and was ratified by the Rcmp members in August. This 6-year contract will expire March 31st, 2023. The agreement requires the federal government to make a retroactive payment to RCMP members in 90 days by November of 2021. There is no information from the RCMP on when these retroactive payments will be billed to municipal contract partners. In Manitoba, policing costs are funded several ways based on the municipality's population size or their choice to opt for an independent police service. In the city of Portage la Prairie, RCMP contracts cost shared are 70% municipal and 30% federal. Our current contract has a maximum officer complement of 27 members. Applicable Canadian municipalities became aware of this situation in 2017 and were encouraged to accrue a contingency reserve of 2.5%. Our city began this accrual in 2020 by establishing a policing general reserve. It was anticipated we would need to accrue $500,000 for this reserve. In late 2020, the Rcmp Manitoba Financial Management provided a calculation tool to applicable municipalities. This tool indicated we would need $531,000 for regular pay increase and further $58,000 based on the overtime recorded since January 1st, 2017 at 2.5% increase. 15.97% compounded. In September of 2021, the city was advised the payment would be a 23.7% pay increase, retroactive to 2017. This will be a total of $840,000, considering a regular pay increase of 1.75% per year since 2017, a market adjustment of 11.54% over the same period, overtime for that period, and the impact of compounding. At this time, these are internal estimates as the city has not been formally provided financial impact numbers from the RCMP. Municipalities across Canada who use the RCMP for policing services are now being asked to absorb the significantly higher than indicated retroactive payments going back to 2017, while concurrently incorporating policing contract increases of 23.7% into their budgets going forward. Since negotiations were conducted exclusively between the federal government and National Police Federation, municipalities had no say in the collective bargaining process, despite being a paying contract partner. Additionally, updates from the federal government were often irregular and did not include any detailed information to relevant stakeholders, including municipalities, during the negotiation process. As a result, the City of Portage has partnered with AMM and FCM to ask that any retroactive pay increases which were negotiated by the federal government be absorbed fully by the federal government. Our municipality strongly believes that it would be both unreasonable and unfair to download these costs onto municipalities, especially while our focus remains on COVID-19 recovery efforts. Moving forward, it is the intention of this City Council to support lobbying efforts from AMM and FCM on payment of RCMP unionization costs, communicate publicly the impact this change will have on the 2022 budget and ratepayers, and task administration to incorporate these increases into the 2022 budget planning process and bring forward options to mitigate the financial impact to city taxpayers. Also, as part of this report, I have a letter that we are sending to Honorable Bill Blair, who's the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness for the federal government, just reiterating our concerns that we have. And just for information, this letter is actually being copied to Candace Bergen, MP for Portage Lisgar, Ian Wishart, MLA for Portage la Prairie, the Honorable Cameron Friesen, Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Honorable Derek Johnson, the Minister of Municipal Relations, Joanne Vanderheyden, President of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and Dennis Volkov, the Executive Director for AMM. And that so ends my informational report.
Questions or comments from council on the report? Councillor Buds?
Thank you for that report. Council's been made aware of this for some time, but the impact is very, very significant, and I fully support what we're doing and would ask even citizens of our city to continue to contact their members of parliament and anyone in this regard. This is very significant, and you know, there's going to be a very significant impact on operating costs as well as this retro pay. So if you have an opportunity and you're speaking to someone, a member of parliament as a citizen, please make your concerns front and center. This issue is definitely something that our council feels that the federal government is responsible for, notwithstanding you know, our policing in our community. This is something that is well beyond our capacity to pay in the given time frame that we have been given by the federal government. So if you have the opportunity, please bring it forward. This is a very, very significant issue facing our city.
Thank you, Councillor Buds. Any further questions or comments on the information? Councillor Knox.
I'll just reiterate what Councillor Budd said, and yes, please reach out to your members of parliament, and if you need help with that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you, and reach out to administration, and our Mr. Mayor will be happy to help you with that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, our next set of new business is third quarter reports for 2021. This is for information. And first third quarter report for 2021 is City Planning and Economic Development Committee. Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm sure I speak for all when I say it's hard to believe we're already going through third quarter reports when the year is almost over, but alas, that's where we are. So I'd like to welcome to the podium our Executive Director of PRED and our Economic Development Officer, Ms. Eva Leary, for the third quarter report for Portage Regional Economic Development.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Good evening, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the updates that have taken place in quarter 3 at PRED this year. So PRED's main focus is to create an environment for success, and we do that through a variety of methods. Our role as an economic development agency is to entice and motivate new investment, along with ensuring that our business community is expanding. We do this through a variety of programs such as business retention and expansion, investment attraction, tourism, developing strong partnerships throughout the community, and also providing that economic development lens. In quarter 3, we continue to work on the 4 core areas of our organizational strategic plan. On page 4, you'll see a high-level summary that speaks to some of the initiatives that PRED has been involved in over the past few months. Page 5 speaks to our strong relationships with other economic development stakeholders and initiatives that have been spearheaded and ignited by the PERT Committee. Page 6 and 7 speaks to the Tourism Committee and the magnitude of impact, the success this committee has had since the revitalisation of this group. I would like to take the time to thank the committee and especially the presenters here tonight on the excellent presentation of the new Regional Tourism Strategic Plan. Finally, page 8 speaks to our approach of being those champions of economic development, and page 9 speaks to our focus on completing an economic baseline analysis in quarter 4. With over 100 internal and external stakeholder meetings, PRED continues to spark energy, ignite projects for the benefit of the entire region. Thank you, Council, and I can take any questions.
Questions from Council for Ms. Leary? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you. Certainly no questions, but I certainly want to say, Eve, thank you so much for taking the time to come tonight, presenting the report. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding, as so to say. I mean, we certainly have experienced a number of large economic initiatives within our region, and we certainly know that PRED is responsible for a portion of those, a large portion of those. So thank you very much.
I'd just like to say, you know, we hear a lot of comments from the public, and certainly one of the things people have said lately is it's not very often you get to say gridlock and Portage in the same sentence, and with all the new development going on and the improvements in infrastructure, certainly some challenges getting around at times, but there's a lot of good news behind that short inconvenience. So for all the work PRED has done on this to move our community ahead, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our next third quarter reports for 2021 are from Community Services Committee. Councillor Draycott, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening I do have 4 quarterly reports for the Community Services Committee. The first one is the Heritage Advisory Committee. So it is noted that the award for the McWilliams Book Prize was completed with a ceremony at City Hall. The award included a $500 prize that was awarded to the Heritage Committee that they deposited in the account. There are new Herman Pryor Decal project. It should be completed this month. In fact, I think it might be done now. And so permissions to use those photographs for the project had been obtained by the photograph owners. There are various queries about heritage and contributions to the Memories Facebook page for Portage la Prairie, as well as an essay for the Manitoba Historical Society on the local photographer E.C. Blair. Number of meetings attended, including the Legislative Exhibit Oversight Committee. That one is coordinating a creation of a new exhibit for the Manitoba Legislature related to Manitoba democracy. Revisions to the Crescent Lake Heritage signs. There was a couple of grants applied for, and work on the mausoleum. And omitted from the Heritage Committee report, but something that we thought would be good to bring to light, was in September, the Heritage Committee Chair James Kostachuk was presented the Lieutenant Governor Award for his many years of work in historical preservation and promotion. The city has benefited from the many projects that he has contributed to over the years. The Lieutenant Governor Janice Philman presents a special maple tree that was developed in Portage la Prairie by Jeffrey's Nursery to the recipients of the award, and James has generously offered to have it planted along the new causeway for all to enjoy. So congratulations to James for receiving that award, and the planting should take place still this fall. So that is the Heritage Committee third quarter report. As well, I do have the Parks Committee report. The Portage Parks Committee continued with fundraising for and planning for Simplot Central Park, including a very well done cookie campaign with Tim Hortons that took place in September. They did have basic landscaping around the McCain Interactive Fountain. The fountain was, of course, completed, including a ribbon cutting and opening of the McCain Interactive Fountain, and that was enjoyed all through the third quarter, really late into October, actually. So the Parks Committee is continuing with fundraising and planning for Simplot Central Park, including the preparation of an RFP for the planning phase of the proposed skate park. And then my third report that I do have is for PCRC, I do believe. Sorry, I lost my spot. Yes, third quarter report for PCRC. So I would invite Ms. Victoria Espy to come to the podium and give us a run through of what happened in the third quarter.
Good evening, everyone. We had a very busy summer, but I'll just pick out a few highlights. So during the first quarter, the Local Immigration Partnership Committee held their first annual Anti-Racism Week. So several events took place throughout the week, including a anti-racism march that started at Island Park and went to the Rufus Prince building that saw over 250 people participate. It was extremely well attended. Another part of the Anti-Racism Week was a project that we launched called Paving the Way Home. This was a project that we partnered with the school division on, where we were painting orange handprints for the children impacted and families impacted by the residential school system. So our goal was 6,000 handprints, and we finalized the project this week, and there were 8,500 handprints printed across the city. So it was very successful. The Communities Building Youth Futures project, one of the highlights of their third quarter was that they are partnering with the Family Resource Center and offering free ID services to members of our community. They also did an ID fair at Long Plain First Nation, where they assisted over 65 people in processing applications for identification. We had 7 summer students partner with us over the summer, so we ran our annual graffiti removal, and I believe we covered 53 tags, I think. And as well, they helped out at the vaccine clinic, the soup kitchen, picking up garbage around our community, and took care of our garden goodie beds. The small grants program, we did our first intake. We just wrapped up our second intake, so we will have granted out $35,000 in small grants funding. We held several events over the past 3 months. The most notable is our Every Child Matters event that took place with many community partners that are all listed there, and we'd like to thank everybody for participating on that project with us. We had about 400 people attend that event, and it was very educational and really well received. Wowokia and Reaching Home are both very busy at this time, particularly with the closure of the shelter. So Wowokia is actually at a high of an active 33 referrals, and Reaching Home, when I checked with them this morning, they were up to 24. So both teams are very busy, but both projects are going really well. The Urban Indigenous Strategy, so the Portage Urban Indigenous Peoples Coalition, we were successful in securing $248,950 to provide resources to many different community groups across the city who support urban Indigenous citizens. So we've provided a list of all of the different organizations that we provided funding to, with a brief line on what that funding went towards. So those are a few of the highlights. Very busy. I think our report's at about, 11 pages or something like that, but we continue to carry on. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Victoria. And then my final report this evening is for Public Arts. They just noted that activities completed this quarter include committee chair had been invited to and attended to a stakeholder event regarding Saskatchewan Avenue West roadway design, and the committee attended grand opening of the splash pad as a grant supporting the project was awarded to the Parks Committee. And then they do list some goals, including moving ahead with Casey Adams, an artist that they're in discussions with about future art projects around the city. And that is all I have for my third quarter reports, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Draycott. Next third quarter reports are from Waterworks Committee. Councillor Wall, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a third quarter report from the Utility Division, which covers water, wastewater, waterworks, and engineering. Daily water production has increased by 2,289 cubic meters this quarter, for a total of 24,967 cubic meters. The increase in water production is due to industry demands. Calcium hypochlorite was turned on at McKay Reservoir July 5th to assist with ensuring adequate disinfection throughout the distribution system, and was turned off on August 25th. Chlorine dioxide for disinfection purposes was taken offline on July 27th. Remote startup of the ozonization system began in July and continued into September. Contractors from Pure Flow were on site the week of September 20th to 25th for final commissioning, and the system is now online and working well. Maintenance. The east effluent control valve at McKay Reservoir needs to be replaced due to isolation valve failure. This work has been put on hold till December, when water demand will be reduced due to industrial shutdowns. One of 4 new turbidity meters has been installed on dual media filter number 2. The 3 remaining turbidity meters will be installed later in October. Distribution pump number 150 was taken out of service due to a broken shaft July 21st. The pump was repaired and put back into service August 10th. Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health attended the site and issued improvement orders on various items in August. Improvement orders are being addressed, will be complete later this year. After 38 years of service to the city of Portage la Prairie, the water treatment plant manager, Mike Sandney, is retiring at the end of October. Council and administration would like to thank Mike for his dedication and commitment to providing safe drinking water for almost 4 decades. A new manager, Jared Smith, has been hired, as well as 2 new operators. I'd just like to say too, as we're saying goodbye to Mike, that over the past century or so, more lives have been saved by treated drinking water and vaccinations than anything else. The Water Pollution Control Facility, from July to September, the WPCF has treated an average of 9.8 megaliters of wastewater per day, for a total of 899 megaliters this quarter. This is down slightly from the 929 megaliters, which was treated during the same time period in 2020. That's mostly due to the dry summer. The facility reported 1 exceedance of the BOD limit on July 20th as 90 milligrams per liter. However, as no other parameters were out of the norm, nor did the result correlate to any operational issues, it was felt this may be an error. All other parameters were well within allowable discharge limits of the Environment Act license. Summer tasks included the clean out of Basin 1, replacement of pumps and flow meters at the WPCF, as well as lift stations, and assisting where needed for the industrial park condition and capacity assessment. The annual land application of biosolids was completed between August 30th and September 16th, with a total of 606.5 dry tons of solids removed from storage and injected into farmland. An officer from Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health attended the site and issued improvement orders on various items around the facility. Improvement orders are being addressed and will be complete later this year. The wastewater upgrade project is ongoing, and administration is working to complete the final request for proposals and project agreement documents that will be issued to the shortlisted bidders. In the Waterworks division, they've been busy over the last few months. 7 sewer line repairs, 1 force main repair, 1 hydrant replacement, 3 water main repairs, 1 water service repair, 1 water valve replaced, numerous water service turn on and off requests, cleaning and maintenance of sewer mains performed on heavy and slow moving mains, and annual flushing. Staff have also been very involved in assisting contractors for water and sewer line replacements around the city, as well as moving curb stops during the Saskatchewan Avenue sidewalk replacement project and for various service requests required for the Saskatchewan Avenue West pipeline replacement. The Lorne Avenue water main renewal from 2nd Street to 3rd Street Northeast has been completed, as has the 2nd Street Northeast water main renewal from Lorne Avenue to Alford Avenue. The Saskatchewan Avenue West water and sewer pipe renewals were started at 4th Street and will continue until the midpoint of Q4. And that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Our next and final set of third quarter reports is from the Public Safety Committee. Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 2 third quarter reports, one from our bylaw and one from our Rcmp. You can see there that bylaw has given us a very thorough report of things that they have been doing, including putting some investment into equipment and safety equipment for them to do their job a little safer for their staff. You can also see that third quarter revenue is up compared to last year by about $7,800 total, which is great when you look at the word revenue. However, all of this revenue comes from them having to enforce bylaw infractions. And so it's coming from them dealing with animal control, it's dealing with unsightly properties, it's dealing with parking, etc. So my advice to people is, make sure that your animals are spayed and neutered, make sure that they're confined to your yards, because although it's bringing us revenue, it's also costing our city and our citizens a lot of money to deal with all of these issues. So Mr. Adamski's here in-house if you have any questions from the report, but that is my bylaw report for tonight.
Okay, any questions from council for bylaw? Councillor Draycott?
Thank you, Your Worship. Hello, Mr. Adamski. How are you this evening?
How about yourself?
I'm great, thank you. I'm just looking at your report, and I'm looking at July, August, September numbers for the number of cats trapped, surrendered, and impounded. And oh my goodness, I'm just thinking about how our weather is about to change. Are you seeing the same cats over and over again, or are these cats just all random cats out loose, or people not looking after them properly, or thinking that cats can just be out in the city without being on a leash? Can you give us an outline of what you're seeing here, or people are actually coming back to get their cats?
So out of this number, about 50% of our numbers are citizens' cats. The other 50 is strays, ferals that are being trapped, being taken into the homes by citizens and handed over to us. So a lot of them are going to shelters, they're not going back to the homes. And as of repeats, we're not getting a lot of repeats. Maybe a handful every month. So citizens are getting the message that the animals have to be kept inside. But yeah, very, very small percentage of that is repeat offenders. We're getting a lot of new cats, new dogs. Population seems to be trending up. Currently, we're at 251 cats to date. So numbers have already gone up since this report's come out.
Councillor Knox?
Hence, spay and neuter your pets. That so ends my first report. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adamski. Next is Rcmp report, quarterly report. Currently, we do have an acting inspector, Mr. Vachon, here, and I would just like to give a thank you to him for filling in this time while we're in between inspectors. He always steps up and does a great job for us, so thank you, Mr. Vachon. We are expecting a new inspector to join our community beginning of December, so this will maybe be your last report you have to come do with us. We have Inspector Peddle joining at the beginning of December, our community, and also we have three other new staff members who've joined us, Constable Fowler, Constable Gertzmar, and Constable Panter, who have joined our community, as well as a number of transfers out from Portage la Prairie. The biggest thing, just a question for you, Mr. Vachon, if you can just speak to a little bit about what you're seeing on our streets right now in Portage, especially our downtown area, because we get a lot of comments from our citizens, and how you guys as members are helping handle that.
Good evening. I'd like to apologize for being kicked out earlier.
We'll blame that one on COVID, right?
I haven't been here since the start of COVID, so process a little different.
Well, it's good to see you back.
Thank you. Overall, the stats are down, so which is a good thing. Like persons crime 192 down from 260. Property crime down 144 from 157, and was on some areas we went up was mischiefs. Sorry, my apology. Maybe I should put my glasses on. Common police activities, we went up 765 from 619. Provincial federal statute 393 from 377. But for the downtown area, we're dealing with a certain family that they can't seem to get accepted into the rental properties. They destroyed every home they've been into. So it's a problem. It's a community problem. But apparently there's some plans in place right now that we're going to follow up with. Also, we had I'll bring this up now. On September 25th, we had an assault behind Keystone on Friday this week, and the person passed away. So it's a murder investigation, which MCU's come out today to start the process on. We'll keep you updated when we have results, but that's where we're at. We also have safer communities and homes working within the city of Portage la Prairie right now. I can't divulge any information on that, but there's some progress being done. You guys have any questions or in that? Or?
Questions from council? Mr. Pito?
Acting Inspector Vachon, could you maybe just mention, you said there were several safer communities operations in the city. Can you explain to council, just to give them a better idea, what safer communities is and what that means?
Well, they have a little bit more authority to do surveillance. They come in, they do surveillance on the house, they have cameras set up, they gather information. At the end of a certain process, it could be a month, could be 6 months. Once they gathered enough information, they serve the renter or the homeowner with papers to evacuate, and they're no longer allowed to reside there. That doesn't mean the problem doesn't move elsewhere. We're just hoping to provide assistance and get them to move out of our community.
Just
Councillor Knox?
further to that, Safer Communities is not Rcmp. It falls under our provincial government, and so it is staffed by a lot of retired city police or Rcmp members, and it is an anonymous organization that citizens can report suspicions or properties to, that goes to this organization, and then they have the ability to do more surveillance and time, etc., and work with the Rcmp on these type of issues. So.
As well, we also had Sergeant Turco work with the city on targeting homes of concerns as well.
Yeah, we appreciate, and we've certainly heard from those neighborhoods where that action has been taken, and you know, citizens have made a lot of calls to report properties where suspicious activity. So it's very gratifying to see when the RCMP are able to take some action, improve the neighborhood, make it safer for everybody. So that's noted, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you. And I saw your emails from the last week, and we're following up with that. We're trying to come up with a plan on those specific areas.
That's great. Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Draycott, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Acting Inspector, I know that you can't give us too much information about the incident behind Keystone, but has that resulted in more traffic of the RCMP in that area? Or I know that that area is a concern for many people in our community and the businesses that are there. If that is the result of that particular assault, are we seeing a little bit more police presence in that area, or is it just a targeted event?
It's a targeted event, in my opinion. We've had more patrols in that area prior to this happening. It's just unfortunate that it happened, and we're following up with the investigation. We were hoping that the victim would we'd be able to get a statement from that person and have a little bit more information to follow on. But, as of today, Major Crimes Unit is out following up with our assistance.
Councillor Knox?
Just one final thing to note, that Acting Inspector Vachon and Sergeant Turco and I are part of a working group for trying to look at some of the issues with our prolific and persistent offenders in our community. And we're meeting on a regular basis with Justice Department and other stakeholders in this issue. So hopefully we'll have some more to report to our citizens on this as we move forward.
Okay. And any final questions or comments from council?
Just a quick note, you'll see that as part of the those conversations, RCMP has a push on to refer a lot of people for alternate measures. We haven't been doing that. You'll see there's 0 reports on that. So we're trying to follow up with charges, having people remanded in custody. We try our best. Doesn't always happen, but that's out of our hands.
And we continue to raise that at the provincial level with Department of Justice.
Yes.
And that
That
concludes
so
your...
ends my report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Knox. Council has no old business this evening, so council is adjourned at 7:10, and we're going to move right into committee. We're going to call committee to order at 7:11 p.m. First up is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Worship. Further to my comments during open council, I did talk about administration's efforts to bring forth policies for updating, and here's another example of it, which will be for council's consideration at our next meeting, and that's just to update our debenture policy. And so our current policy was approved back in 2001, so it does require some changes, primarily just to reflect some changes from the provincial government departments and municipal board changes for debenture issuance. And so you can look forward to that small amount of changes coming to our next meeting. So if there are no questions related to that item, going once, twice, and sold. So no questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
That does
Buds.
conclude my report.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. The City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. And Community Services Committee. Councillor Draycott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing for the Community Services Committee.
Thank you. And Waterworks Committee. Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has no report this evening.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee. Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to share a little note from our Citizens on Patrol Committee tonight that they are undertaking a new initiative, which is a Business Watch initiative, where it's based on crime prevention through environmental design, where they're watching for suspicious activities, but now they're really going to focus on our businesses and buildings and look for things like burnt out lights or overgrown bushes or broken windows, etc., and be reporting those directly to our business community in order to help with some of those initiatives and help deter criminals from your business. So they asked me to share that with council, and you'll hear more in our media, I'm sure, because they're going to be doing a little campaign and sending it out to our business community. So good on them for doing that. That so ends my information.
Thank you for the update. And committee is adjourned at 7:13 p.m. Thank you for coming out, everybody.